Welcome to the Porsche Club Insider, your one stop for all things Porsche and PCA. Here's your host, Vu and the Insider crew.
Welcome everyone to episode 68. We're here at the 2023 Porsche Parade in Palm Springs, actually La Quinta, California.
Not the budget hotel chain,
yes,
but the fancy resort.
La Quinta Resort and Spa.
Have you been to the spa?
No. So just a quick few disclaimers here. We are in the ballroom of the exhibit hall, and they should be setting up, and they might make some noises while we're doing this, so excuse that. Man, we have a great show for you today. At the table, of course, Manny is always here with me, Robert at the controls, but we have two very special, dear guests of ours, dear friend, Mr. Alwin Springer, former president of Porsche Motorsports North America and co-founder of Andial, synonymous throughout Porsche racing in the U.S. in the 70s and 80s. And we have Volker Holzmeyer, current steward of the Andial name and president of Porsche Motorsports North America. Welcome, the both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was going to say, this is an audio podcast, so you actually have to say something.
And then later on, we're going to bring on the Treffen North America chair, Alex Ching, to share with you some inside tips with regards to Treffen Gateway to the West. So we are at Porsche Parade. This is not your first Porsche Parade. You've been to Parade before, Volker. This is probably like your third or fourth, right?
It's my second. I found that out while moving to the US. I found the gift I got in Monterey. It helped me. 13, 14?
14.
14. Then I figured out, that was my first Porsche Parade. So.
And at that time, you were with the classic side.
Porsche Classic, exactly. They sent me here, and it was lovely to do tech tactics about Classic, a restoration business.
So we probably met back in 14.
Pretty sure.
Absolutely.
Pretty sure.
Did you have the same hair?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was always cutting it short.
I did too.
And then I realized it's not growing anymore when I tried.
So I get in trouble all the time because it's very difficult for me when I'm looking at a living legend. Oh, yeah. And I always refer to him as Mr. Springer. And you yell at me all the time that I must say Alwin. So it's still difficult, but I will try. Thank you, Alwin, for being here with us.
Yeah, I'm really, really glad to be here. And let me tell you that in racing, the misters are not really there. So it's first names, and at least you can tell a little bit easier what you feel about than if you say Mister. Can I tell you something? So that's the reason for it. And it's friendly.
So I have to say that your biggest fan is sitting right next to you. You know that, right?
Yeah. And I'm very, very glad.
The first time I met Alwin was with Jens Walter. And Jens came up to introduce, and I said, "You don't have to introduce this gentleman. Everyone knows Alwin." I said, "I've never met him, but I've seen him in many photos in the history of Porsche. He's iconic. It touched so much, and we've talked about his book, but it's amazing. I think how things would have been different if Alwin wasn't involved with motorsports in North America."
So before we get into the book and currently what's going on in the motorsports world, let's touch upon the Porsche Parade itself. We just recently had the Concours and the Concours banquet, and what do you think of the venue?
It's very, very nice for, I was the last time, I think 9 times in the 90s in the banquet, so I know it was long, but, yesterday sitting there, and you have to have patience, but at the same token, I have to say, like the people who are sitting in the room, they get a trophy, they work hard the whole time, and that you have to accept that. And it was very, very nicely done, and a warm feeling, especially where I was sitting. Thank you to you. And, I would say it was a nice evening.
It's very obvious the passion that people have for the brand and how much time they spend on their cars on the Concours. The Concours field, the location at the Pete Dye golf course was a phenomenal backdrop for a Concours. It was warm, and Manny enjoyed the dry heat.
That's like saying I'm just balding. Yes, it was. Oh my God, it was hot.
It was hot.
It was like you open up an oven and the oven follows you all day.
But what I tell people, like, this was hot, but the Ozarks hot was way more
I thought
uncomfortable.
you were going to say Alabama was going to be hotter next year.
Yeah, but humidity.
Yeah, exactly.
Because here it's dry.
I think that Alabama Parade will feel hotter. unless we have like a cold spell come through.
But normally parades are always warm.
Hopefully not. He just whispered, hopefully not.
But I will say that they managed to heat pretty good. At the Concours field, there was water stations, ice water stations all over the place. So
and cars were placed on the field at 5 in the morning.
Yes.
Some were placed the night before, so they tried to get through it as early as possible. I will say here, the mornings, especially this morning's walkover, and the evenings are absolutely gorgeous, and it is very comfortable.
It is a beautiful sight. It's something that was supposed to happen in 2020.
Yeah.
We were all set for 2020, then the pandemic hit, so we had to move it back. But it seems like everyone's having a great time. In the hospitality room, that's what this room's called. It's where the vendors are. It's like Party Central, because this is where people come after the events or the drives to get a bite to eat, to get something to drink, to meet up with people, talk to vendors. It's and Porsche, of course, has this huge display in the back part of hospitality, which they usually do have a big display. And I want to give a shout out to Kathy Lee, who works for Porsche Cars North America, is our contact to Porsche, because she allowed us to set up the podcast. Because right after this, the hotel has to quickly set up chairs because it's a whole day of Porsche seminars, of which Volker and Alwin are going to be in presentations in front of a live audience.
So while we're giving shout outs to people, let's give a shout out to the hundreds of volunteers that make Porsche Parade happen, from the chair, Jack Stevenson, to the parade committee, of course, our executive council, that there's so many people involved to make, with all these moving pieces, to make this happen and make it an enjoyable vacation for so many.
Yeah, last night, so Alwin was alluding to the Concours banquet, which can be notoriously long because there's so much to cover. And, of course, we set him in the front because out of respect, he's a VIP. But I told him the bad part about being in the front, you cannot sleep and you cannot leave. You have to. I said, so drink a lot of coffee. I said, I'm further back, so no one notices if I leave or if we're talking or anything. But I thought it was really cool that Mark Porsche, the son of Butzi Porsche, came and he gave a great speech.
Heartfelt.
Yes, very
and
heartfelt.
You could tell that, being at Porsche Parades in the past meant a lot to him, and PCA meant quite a bit to him.
Yeah, he was. He's genuinely happy to be here, and of course we were impressed to find out that he has about 15 or 18 American cars,
including a Firebird.
Did
you know that?
Yeah, 67 Firebird. No, 76.
76. It's not
Firebird.
the Bandit car, but it's a gold version of the Bandit car.
He looked at us. He said, "What American cars do you have?" And I was really embarrassed. I said, I only have a Chevy Suburban. I said, we're the opposite. We talk about the German cars we have, not the American cars. But yeah, it was really interesting. He said his dad has some Jeeps.
Yeah.
And he was talking about his grandfather, when his grandfather, Ferry, of course, I believe, bought a station wagon and drove it almost cross country to the parade. And then about an hour before
outside of
town, he sold the station wagon, picked up the 356, and drove the 356 in the parade. But he always wanted to drive a station wagon across America. So I thought I'd heard that story before, but hearing it from Mark Porsche was really special. So that's the kind of things that parade brings, and of course Mark is very approachable. He doesn't have bodyguards or anything. You can just walk up to him and talk to him.
Absolutely. So I'm curious. You see Porsches all the time. You see amazing cars. You know of the stuff that's happening behind the scenes at Porsche. When you come to an event like this where we have hundreds of Porsches out in the lot, we have hundreds of Porsches in the Concours field, did any particular Porsche catch your eye this week?
I think I was surprised that a lot of people showed up with air-cooled cars without air condition. I have them
hardcore,
respect.
right?
That's like very brave. So
Yeah.
it was nice to see, but I think the variety from the early 911s, 356 up to Carrera GT 918, everything, the variety is very special. You don't see that often.
The whole range.
The
whole range of cars.
You've been in America for 2 years or 3 years now, you said?
It's getting 2 years next month.
So now you're used to air conditioning? You need air conditioning? Because normally when we talk to the Germans, they are always wondering why the Americans always need so much air conditioning.
I have a heater in my office because the air conditioner is not controllable.
So she's still German then. They want to know that, and then they want to know, because I complain about the cup holders, that the cup holders in Porsches just aren't adequate.
I get it now. I get it.
You get it now.
And they always want to know why Americans are so dehydrated
All
that
the
they
time.
need to carry 64 ounces of soda.
So I have a good story about the cup holders. So Fred Schwab in the 90s was the CEO of PMNA, and there was his biggest fight with Germany, cup holders. So he said, "You don't believe it, they don't understand what the Americans want," and so why you say cup holders. So you asked Volker about cars. I have a 1964 C, 356. So obviously I looked at these cars, and I have to say, they have some very, very nice
Examples.
cars and examples here. So either I leave my car the way like it is or really invest time and money to bring it up to things. But I think I'll leave it the way like it is, then at least it's original.
So-
But that's what I looked at, and I was impressed.
So your history and the magic that you have done with your hands and you continue to do with your hands on motors, is a car like yours stock, or do you have a little bit of extra something in the power plant because you don't want to be passed by other 356Cs?
On my no. As a matter of fact, Dieter, my partner in Andial, and we overhauled the engine because it broke, and so I was debating, do I upgrade it to a bigger engine or leave it alone? But I decided leave it original, just the new parts in there. So it was good. I enjoyed it because it was the first time in about 30 years or that the two of us worked together again, and it was a nice adventure.
So let's get into Manny. As I said earlier, is your largest fan. He's got so much information. He probably knows more about you than you know about you. But having said that, though, with your recent release of the book, he was still surprised and still learned quite a bit.
Yeah, and we're doing a Tech Tactics Live later today that we'll show later on YouTube. So keep an eye. We'll advertise it. Talking to Alwin and about the book and his, of course, amazing history with motorsports and Porsche, but also how he came to the U.S. and actually Canada first, and then to the U.S. and then discovered Southern California. Helped co-found Andial, which became Porsche Motorsports
In 2013, I believe?
That one.
No, in 1997.
Yeah.
Oh, 1997.
1997, Andial, or let's say I sold my shares in Andial and became then officially, Porsche Motorsport was born again, reborn. It's a long story because, I don't know if you want to go into it because it starts all in 1989-90. That's when Al Holbert, he was the president of, I don't know
He was
whether
the
it
first president of Motorsport.
he was the
right?
first
Yeah.
one, and then he died in an airplane crash in '88. So in '89, Porsche closed Porsche Motorsport down. So it was just a like a mailbox office in Delaware. And then in the end of '89, I got approached by Mr. Flegel, and I would like to take over the job for Al Holbert. And it is in the book a little bit better explained, so I don't want to go into details. Let's say that with Mr. Schwab, I had some hard feelings and big arguments, but in the end we survived. And I continued the Andial work for supporting the customers, rebuilding engine, and at the same time start to build up Porsche Motorsport again. And so it was a 50-50 job, and of course, sometimes difficult, but very rewarding if I look at it today.
We need to be careful. I think I got a signal from Robert. Just watch the table because we've got some background
Can't do
noise.
the,
See?
can't do the karate chop.
Can't do the karate
See,
chop.
he's hitting.
Oh,
Oh, that's Manny. I threw you under the bus.
he
real quick.
did. It was prepared for that.
So over to Volker. Just fast forward to what's going on today in motorsports. In the speech the other day, you talked about identifying new drivers and the task of doing that and finding new talent. What's the basis of that, and where are we going to see it next?
I think we started to think about this while Patrick Long retired. We said, that's US factory driver of Porsche. Where's the next one? Oh, we have to work on this. So that's why also like the US market is so big, and there's so much racing going on, there's so much talent, that we started the karting level to search for talents, the very young ones. Then of course we have the junior program and Sprint Challenge and Carrera Cup. And then we have the selected driver program. So there's the global shootout, where every market which has a Carrera Cup sends his best guy application to Germany, to Porsche AG, and then they choose the best ones. That's the global program. Factory drivers come out, and we put a selected driver program on top to give our best talents the chance in the US to run in IMSA, in GT racing, or also in SRO, to prove their next step. And hopefully through that pyramid, we identify the next factory driver coming out of the US. In addition, we have a female development program, which hopefully also funnels some female talents into that pool, so that maybe one day we find a factory driver, female factory driver.
So it all makes sense, but I think it really makes Manny and myself sad, because we were going to do a talent reel of us autocrossing locally and send it to you in hopes that we get a ride.
Yes, of course, that was our dream.
That was our dream.
Realistically,
You shattered our dreams.
first we got to fit in the car.
Yeah, but hold it. There's always a pace car.
Insult to injury.
Man, I tell you, insult.
No, I think it's great what they're doing with this the junior program of going out there and finding talent, because you don't want the competition to pick up these people that if they're future Super Cup drivers or LMP prototype drivers. You want to get them right from the beginning. And before, it was rare for Americans to start in karting. Usually they started in their 20s or 30s. Where Europe, they were, the 3-year-old kids are being strapped into carts, and by the time they're 10 years old, they're Sebastian Vettel. And I think it's great Porsche is looking for that in the U.S.
And it's not just about driving. We met some of the young talented drivers at Sports Car Together Fest, and yes, they have the talent for driving, but they are spokespeople.
Yes.
Like, they're trained to represent the brand, and they are so incredibly impressive at a young age.
That's what. First time I met Patrick Long, it really impressed me how articulate he was, professional. We've all seen the movie Ricky Bobby when he's being interviewed. He doesn't know what to do with his hands, and obviously that was a cartoonish movie. But Patrick was very polished, and I thought that, boy, that's a plus, because driving is one thing, but you also have to promote the sponsor, the brand. You're now the face of that. And the sponsor obviously doesn't want somebody that can't put them in a good light.
No, two things have to come together, then it's awesome. But the driving skill is the foundation. We provide them with training for how to act in front of media, how to operate their own Instagram channel, because they have to have it. That's the new standard. But what's special to mention, that sim racing is really helping us too, because we have young talents who also won a junior shootout, who started racing cars with 16, and before they just did sim racing, and that really works well, and it also makes the sport more accessible. So I think in the future that will grow, I'm pretty sure.
So Alwin, being around motorsports for a long span of time, how have you seen sort of drivers that you interact with, and they communicate to you what their feeling is with vehicles and engines? Has that changed over the years?
I would say it is what Volker just said, like the old ones had their own way, like the Stucks and Klaus Ludwig and Bob Wallach. And the new ones, the new drivers...
Don't karate chop.
Right. Excuse me.
Hold his hands up.
So, but the new ones, they're more, they're how can I say that the personality of them is a little bit, in the background, because they have to follow this, they have to follow here, and the old ones, they couldn't care less, they told you they were like it is. And what I always did is the guys, and they had already a career in Germany, so they came over here, and blah blah blah, and I told them, I said, listen, my friend, you are a spacer. He said, what do you mean a spacer? I said, between the steering wheel and the seat, and you can be replaced.
Oh,
so nice.
Nice.
So it was, like we established a good relationship, and some of the guys, are not with us anymore, but the ones what are still with us, we still have a very, very good contact.
Now, Volker, you're out of Porsche Experience Center, LA, the home of Motorsports, and what I love is you're still hanging around in the shop, Alwin.
Yeah, he
Does he have his own key? Can he come in and out as
Yeah, we
will?
tried to take it away, but it's tough. Yeah. Maybe he has multiples. I don't know.
Yeah, I have copies.
Multiple keys,
I have copies. Yeah. Now, what I still do is we established under Jens Walter when he was here, the historic division where we rebuilt, like 908, 935, 962, even 917 engines, and made it from the beginning clear that every engine we overhaul, it goes on a dyno. And that was a lot of capital investment from Porsche Motorsports side because, when you set it up on a dyno, it's a lot of pipes, a lot of things, really expensive. But when the engine leaves us, it's a proven, definitely good engine. And I believe that we are the only one in the United States who can overhaul engines with a dyno on that stage. And we even did a 917 turbo. And I know for sure that last time a turbo was on the dyno was in Zuffenhausen, and it was never outside of the Zuffenhausen anywhere else beside Porsche Motorsport. So we're very proud of it. And right now it's with Eric Blas. He's the PMNA person who works with me, and I hired him when he was 18. So he's right now, I think, 56 or 57, so he's laughing. So the two of us will do it, and I still very, very much enjoy it. And I like it on a dyno. I'm still doing electronics and that stuff. So it's a nice, how can I say, a nice time that where at one time I enjoy it, and at the same time I think that I'm still productive.
Absolutely.
Now,
But that's up to him.
Yeah.
The listeners are going to know, what's the maximum horsepower in a 917 turbo?
In Germany, when we ran about 1400.
14. And did you stop it, or did the valves start coming out
No,
of the
no,
exhaust?
no. Let me tell you that I didn't see it. Because, like when we ran on our dyno, we ran about 900 horsepower, and that was it. So you don't want to blow up an engine like that for what? Because it is in today's world, we're not running races like we had in a Can-Am. So, and it was a Brumus car, so it sits mostly in a museum and enjoys life.
But I can tell you, it creates a nice atmosphere if you hear 900 horsepower in the dyno while I'm sitting in my office.
That's hilarious.
Or you're like, Alwin's here again.
Yeah, but he's overreacting.
He's overreacting.
Because it was a turbo, and a turbo is not really noisy,
that's right.
The normal aspirators one, I can see that. But
So he is a walking wealth of knowledge, especially on the vintage motorsports side. And have you prepared the team to make sure that you absorb as much as you can? Because so many people, it's hard to find people, right, that have this knowledge, and we want to make sure that we preserve everything that he's done. I'm not sure he's willing to share all of it, or are you?
definitely, I don't hold back. I gave him all my books, all information what I have, and I'm really teaching Eric every avenue of what I know.
That's amazing.
Definitely, because
We love that because
you
not-
have to do that.
We
You have to.
don't always have that opportunity, and for you to be able to share that with the next generation, I think that's
No,
invaluable.
no.
So that has to be a very busy shop, because you provide support for all the Carrera Cup cars, and they have hour limits. There's so many hours on suspension, on transmission, and engine. Then they send you back to your place for a refresh, right?
So in Sprint Challenge and Carrera Cup, it's a rule that the engines have to be serviced and also then sealed by PMNA to make sure that we have equal competition. Because that's the foundation of one-make racing. Everybody has the same car, and the driver makes a difference, and the engineer has a little playground. So that's why it's very important to keep that.
And you're still the person you have to come to if you want to buy a cup car, because it's not as though. I was going to say, even like street cars, it's hard to get allocations, but I can imagine what the allocation would be for a. I guess you have to be a team. You have to prove that you're going to race it.
Yeah.
To buy a cup car.
Main rule is that our cars are meant to be driven, and we don't sell museum or collector cars. So Of course, racing is worldwide, so globally, but especially in the US, has big growth in the last years. You see it at the driving experience centers, at the experience centers, also on the driving schools. Everything is booked out, and we also feel it on demand on the race car side, especially entry level like GT4 or Club Sport race car, up to Carrera Cup in GT racing.
Wow.
So we are booming. And that's why it always makes it hard. If you have a lot of demand, you have more demand than production,
Sure.
you always have to make choices. And therefore, we try to place our cars, of course, in our one-make series. In GT racing, we have to find the right customers who also fit to our brand and are good to work with.
So we were told we could record Volker's presentation later today, and because right in front of us is a GT4 Club Sport, RS Club Sport, and a GT4 RS Street Car, and you're going to tell us the differences between the two cars, although they look very similar. I mean, obviously one has a bigger wing. Did you see the hemp fenders?
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Au naturel.
yes. They said you can't smoke it if you crash. It has some chemicals in it. I was asking for a friend. But that'll be. I think I always tell people that Porsche doesn't stray very far from the street cars when they build their race cars. There's always some connection through that, and if you look at the Club Sport, it's very much so. And it's very cool that the Club first generation, second generation Cayman Club Sports are now making their way to our club racing program.
Exactly.
And there's one here, autocrossing. So it's the Porsche race cars never die. They just find another place to race.
I think it all started in 15 with the first Cayman GT4 Club Sport, and it's proven to be our entry-level car and very successful. So happy to have it in the third generation now. And the difference between street car and race car, it's not that much as you think. Like engine, gearbox is taken over, and that's a big thing. I think that was earlier times nearly impossible that the engines could survive that kind of racing. But now the GT street cars are that good that you really can race them.
So when you're looking at your office at the Experience Center and people driving, are you looking for talent? So I just remember that. I was just letting the people know who are out there, because we always say at our tracks when in the drivers' meeting, we say Roger Penske is not in the stands. He's not looking for his next great driver, so don't try to crash trying to impress somebody that's not there. So when you go to Experience Center LA, Volker is not looking out the window for the next great driver.
But he has his spies in the corners.
So speaking of Carrera Cup, your alignment with F1 and representing the brand there, what's that been like for you?
The idea was, before Carrera Cup, the challenge was mainly racing on IMSA, and we just thought, why not pick the best venues in the US to let Carrera Cup join them? And then, of course, Formula One is the big show, globally the big show in racing. We're joining the Coda Grand Prix, that's the season finale, but we also have been at the Miami Grand Prix. That's two. Then we will join the NASCAR race in Road America as a specialty. We raced with IndyCar in Long Beach.
You're going to race with NASCAR?
Yeah.
Wow.
We give it a try. That's
Wow.
Road
That's
America.
awesome.
So just to see different crowds and put our customers into different environments, that makes it very the variety of races and venues
Sure.
is very special. So street courses, Formula One Grand Prix, NASCAR, IMSA races.
It'll be interesting to see what lap times the Cup cars do versus the NASCAR Cup cars. It's although we saw with Le Mans,
With the Camaro.
with the Garage 56 and the Camaro, that they can hold its own. It's
Straight line speed is definitely a strength of NASCAR.
yes, obviously, yeah. It's but they've come a long way for road course. But that's great. They're integrating the two different. Unseemingly, you would never think they
Platforms.
would be together, but now they're racing together.
So we have this big event in September that you might be a part of. What's it called? Ren Sport?
Ren Sport, yes.
Heard of it? Yeah.
Heard of it? Have you heard of it?
Well, I think
he-
Alwin
I
has
would-
to.
It should come fluently over your lips.
The Grand Marshal is here, sitting with us.
Co-Grand Marshal.
Co-Grand Marshal.
Co-Grand Marshal with Patrick Long.
Yes, sir.
And I like that very much because Aisha Koka from PCNA, she told me, said, look, you're
karate chopping again.
You are the co-marshal for the past. Patrick is the co-grand marshal for the future, and together you are for the present.
That's
and
amazing.
I like that very, very much because it makes a lot of sense. And Patrick and I, we are very, very good combination because I was still president when we hired him at Porsche Motorsports. So we go back a long time, and actually we're good friends.
So
I look
very-
forward to it.
So very appropriate and very much deserved.
Yeah, no, I really look forward to it. It's going to be good.
And Volker,
And it's an honor, I have to
Yeah.
say that. I really appreciate that from Porsche's side, to do that.
so at PMNA, you're working on vintage factory race cars. There's going to be a few of them at Ren Sport. Does that mean you've got a full schedule between now and September?
Yeah, Alvin was busy the last weeks and months preparing engines because of customers bringing them in. So happy that he's still supporting us, and of course, customer appreciate that he brings his knowledge into rebuilding that engines. That's very well appreciated.
Yeah, but I have to say that Eric Blas, he grew up, and he's capable now to do the engine by itself. When an engine comes in from a customer, we take it apart, evaluate what do we need, where do we get the parts, and then Eric actually assembles the engine by himself. I'm there once in a while, and then the only thing where I come in is when we go to the dyno, because that is still special, because when things go the right way, it's easy, but once the problem starts and it doesn't run here and doesn't do there, so then I think my knowledge is sometimes really helpful.
But I see
And I enjoy it.
I see Alvin having some wrenches in his hand, so it's not just a dyno.
That's fantastic. That's what I love.
Oh,
that
yeah.
I know
I
his
still-
hands are getting dirty. In fact, I believe we were at Works Reunion
Yep.
when we were trying to fire up something.
We had the Miller 962.
That's right, that's
and,
right.
And we happened to bring it up, and of course the crowd was saying, "Turn it on, let's see what it sounds like." And the person who was handling the car, I guess I'm not sure if he was the owner,
Technician.
but yeah, he couldn't turn it on. And so Alvin got up the stage, climbed in the car, and told him what buttons to hit to, and it fired right up.
And seconds later, fired right. I'm like, there is the experience, right?
In the good
there.
old times.
Yeah. So I want to have to ask you, when you walk through Porsche Motorsports and the garage there, do you pause ever and think of where you came from and the support and where Porsche Motorsports is today? That's got to be an amazing feeling.
Definitely. I definitely do that, and we had an event at Porsche Experience Center. It's all in the same building. And I was sitting on the grandstand, or not on the grandstand, but on the podest, giving a little conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just looking around, and I said, you know what? It's amazing what came out, from the Andial store, from getting it nowhere because there was nothing there, just paper. And yes, I definitely sit there and I look at the things, and I'm very proud of what it became.
Yeah, because
And
I
I have
think-
to, and I have to give credit to my successor. I mean, Volker is now the 5th successor. I think so. 4th, 5th? Yeah. So there was Uwe Brettel.
Mm-hmm.
He came from Germany, ran the Super Cup. He was the first one. Then the second one was an English guy. That didn't work well. And he didn't make
Let's
his,
hope he doesn't listen to the podcast.
He didn't make his 5 years,
Uh-huh.
was usually the time.
Uh-huh.
Then third one was Jens Walter. He
Jens,
was
yeah.
here for 7 years, and that he moved the company up because on the marketing side. And then we had a technician, Armbruster,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course now it's Volker, the
Volker.
5th one. I told you,
Fifth, yeah.
5th one. So
That's
So-
a bit of weight on your shoulders there,
You,
Volker.
you didn't count yourself in.
me. Yeah, that's,
He didn't make the 5 years.
yeah, exactly. That's actually correct. No, what I said, 5th successor.
This is actually. Well, it certainly is an honor to have you both here, and we want you to continue to stay with us during the podcast. But we're going to bring on Alex Ching, the chair of Treffen North America. Alex, you around here somewhere? Come on
So,
over.
Treffen, we're going to the St. Louis area. Have you've probably been to St. Louis for the Arch?
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Have you been there yet, Volker?
No, not yet.
Okay, so you may want to listen so you can sign up for the Treffen event.
So Alex is responsible for one of the most popular events in PCA. It's the Treffen North America. We've been known to sell out the event in less than 8 minutes. The one upcoming this fall is Gateway to the West, September 20th through 24th. And we have you here, Alex, to just share with people maybe some inside tips and what to look forward to, because registration opens June 28th.
Correct. So we're a much smaller event, usually around 300 people. For Treffen Gateway, our host is the Ritz-Carlton in Clayton, Missouri. We're about 10 miles west of downtown St. Louis. For this event, we are doing a Oktoberfest theme.
Ooh.
So bring your lederhosen and journals.
So it'll be a little cooler than it is right now.
Yes, much.
That's a big selling point.
Yes, yes. And we have 5 guided tours for the first 2 days, and then 2 bus tours on our last day of the event. If you're into driving great roads, we go into the countryside out there outside of St. Louis. St. Louis is a really historic town. It was first settled by the French, hence the name St. Louis. And then in the late 1800s, the German immigrants moved into the area and started a lot of breweries and wineries in the region. So we're going to be hitting a lot of those little towns around there that has a strong German influence. So
Manny was around when the Treffen, or back then we called it the Escape. The idea came about. Our friend Tim Fleming first had the Escape here in the wineries of California, and it was supposed to be created so that if you have a parade in the East Coast, you would have something available that year for PCA members in the West Coast and vice versa. And it's a little bit different from a full Porsche parade here, where we have 2,000 people. Treffen is a much more intimate group. It's usually during the time period where it's primarily couples, no competitive events, lots of driving tours, lots of fantastic food, and the venues that you choose, Alex, are typically like 4, almost 5-star.
correct. Yeah, our minimum standard is a minimum of a 4-star resort. We go out there and we taste the food. It's fantastic. There's also a lot of good restaurants around where our venue is. So
It's about driving and eating, essentially.
yes, that's correct.
That's what our
Yeah.
club does
That's
best.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
So
and we kind
Maybe
of
that's why Volker doesn't look at us as good drivers.
we have to choose, Volker.
Yeah.
Sometimes we
Yeah.
choose food.
We equal driver weight, but it stops at 80 kilos.
Oh no, we're done. We're done.
good luck.
For. Good luck. Why did you look at me when
qualify.
you said that? You literally looked at me and said good luck when you mentioned weight.
You know what? I cannot be my friend here.
yeah. So we kind of look at ourselves as the bookend for parade. So we have our events in the spring and the fall. So it's usually a little cooler. You know, in the spring, you get to see a lot of new growth for the trees and stuff. In the fall, usually you can catch some of that fall foliage.
And there's always fantastic destinations, not only
Right.
for food, but historic sites. You're taking people to beautiful areas and roads that are definitely not just straight.
That's
the
correct.
requirement has to be they're curvy
Yes.
roads.
Yeah, we definitely, that's one thing we do look for. It's got to have fantastic roads for people to drive on.
Usually we don't have to sell Treffen because, as you said, it literally sells out in 8 minutes. Robert takes care of that. We usually go to his desk to look at the. He sets up a screen. Sometimes he sends us a link so we can see. It's like watching the stock market. It's amazing. As soon as it opens, you have hundreds of people, and you're watching as they're going for the registration process. And it's heartbreaking because they have to cut off at a certain amount, and it happens
Right.
really quickly. And so we try to give helpful hints to be able to get into the events. And part of those helpful hints is to look at that registration page prior to registration opening. Decide what you want. It's kind of like you're going to a restaurant. Go online, look at the menu, because imagine you only had 3 minutes to order.
You wanted to use the food reference. I was
Yes.
going to say concert ticket reference.
Yeah, but
There's no calories involved in that. Know how many tickets you want to buy. Know the events you want to go to advance. So when it opens, you get through it and check out
But
as soon as
that's not
possible.
good advice because you never got into Taylor Swift concert. The food's better.
The food's better. But
so
yeah,
let me say something for registration. Maybe it's a good idea if you give the older people and you decide what age you want to take it. Give them about 2 minutes, advance.
sir, you do understand.
You're asking for a friend.
Yeah, no, for me it's okay, but sometimes, my wife. No, I'm telling you, I look at it and it becomes complicated, like so, and then people are not as fluent at the thing. So I can see that, and I mean it maybe really. I don't know how you can do it, but maybe set aside, 50 entries for people who takes a little bit longer.
Well, I will say,
and I mean it seriously.
you may have the co-grand marshal title at Ren Sport, but in PCA you have the golden key. So you and Yolanda, whenever, wherever, if you want to join us with PCA, we will certainly
I've
make
seen
that
Yolanda
happen.
with her phone. She can handle it pretty well.
Oh yes, she does. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So the secret is going to basically the sort of tours are really the key, because that's what
Correct.
fills up, because we can only put so many cars
Yeah.
together in tours. You don't want a line of 100 cars. That's not fun for anyone. So it is limited. It's different than Parade. What are some of the tours that we're going to be doing?
So for this one, we're going to a historic town of Herman, which has been settled there since the 1700s. But great roads going out there. You're going to take part of historic Route 66 for that
cool.
tour. We're going to the town of Augusta, which is the first appellation for the U.S. for the wineries. So there's also the town of Washington. We're following the Lewis and Clark Trail for that one. We're going to a small town called St. Genevieve to the south
heard
of
of
St.
that,
Louis. Lunch is going to be at a winery down there. The wine region is just throughout that area. They were probably one of the first wine regions in the U.S. until Prohibition came along and kind of killed the industry. Now they're trying to revive it, so it's booming. They grow their own varietals out there. So
And I think the lunches are a little bit nicer too. They're not
Yes,
just
yes.
a bag lunch or.
no, it's not. Most of our lunches are catered, or they are at a very fine restaurant in the area.
Now, there's also this thing called an NDO.
Yes, that stands for Navigator's Day Off. We usually provide bus tours on those days. For the St. Louis event, we're going to the Gateway Arch, and then following that will be a riverboat cruise. The second tour, we're going to the Anheuser-Busch Brewery, and then to President Grant's farm.
Does the brewery have free samples?
Of course.
And we provide
I'm
the
asking
bus
for
so you
Volker,
can,
'cause I know
you
he
can
wanted to
sample all
find
the
out.
different brews that.
I saw his ears
Carry.
got perk up when you said that.
I sold it.
Sold it.
Captain Spock.
But if you want to meet the Clydesdales, they're included with the Anheuser-Busch tour, and then
Oh, that's nice.
That's cool.
the U.S. Grant Farm. That's where they actually raised the Clydesdale, so you get to see a little of both sides of how they.
I'm 5'6". I need another thing to remind me I'm short. Oh, look at the baby Clydesdales.
So there you have it. Like, we're telling you all the secrets. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to get into Treffen, but
Right.
it's going to best your odds if you follow these tips. And please know, just like I think Manny says it all the time, we have a maximum capacity so that we can keep the quality of the event. And for those that get in, congratulations to you. But for those that don't get in, don't scream at us. We've given you a heads up.
Right.
It's just a very popular event, and it's we usually don't even mention it because people get mad and they say, "Well, you promoted Treffen, but it's sold out. It's sold out in a few minutes." So here's an insider tip.
Right.
Go look at that website. Choose what you're going to do. So when registration opens, you can go through and pick everything you want and be checked out. And odds are you'll probably get in.
Right.
So Robert will probably want me to encourage you to sign up for eBrake News, and he's clicking, and we're going to see performance news on the screen here, marked fresh. These are all free newsletters. Just head to pca.org and sign up.
Can Robert swing the camera around so we can see him?
I don't know that he can. Can he?
Yeah, I think we paid a lot of money for these cameras.
Oh, there he goes.
Look at that.
Look at that.
There's-
There he is.
That's,
he brought all the equipment
and set it
from
up
the
and-
office and set it up here. So thank you,
Yes,
Robert.
that's, he's usually in a different room when we do the podcast.
There you go.
Yeah, we have Podcast Insider, PC Insider merchandise and mugs. I had to buy it all so to pretend that people actually
Manny.
wanted it.
There was a whole table in the Parade store of PCA
I
Insider
know. I
merch.
saw it. I was stressed because I'm like, we got to make.
I'm
sure
like,
people
who's going to buy it? And
I
they
told-
said they
I-
had to refill the table.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's
See?
because I sent my mom in there to buy it.
I bought a T-shirt.
Did you buy a
Yes,
t-shirt?
I did buy a T-shirt.
What?
Wow.
That's awesome. Let's get into a little bit of news, something that's going to happen in our neck of the woods, which I think is going to be, hopefully we can put together maybe when they unveil the beautiful America Roadster in D.C.
I can't see the screen.
Oh, we're talking about the, let me click on the link that you sent me. We're talking about,
Usually I have my laptop in front of me.
Usually we're talking
Oh,
about
so this is really interesting.
Yeah.
The America Roadster, and this is the Ingrams, they made it into the National Historic Vehicle Register. So, during the Bob Ingram. Bob Ingram, of course, unfortunately passed away, and he was a huge friend of PCA and just an overall great guy. But the Ingram family is very much involved with Porsche and the restoration, and Cam Ingram and Rhodes Scholars, who are just a stellar job, and they're like Pebble Beach winners all the time. So this America Roadster, for those who don't know, Max Hoffman, who was importing the cars for many manufacturers, asked Ferry Porsche to make a car that would be more competitive with the English cars. And if you notice that the America Roadster, Robert has it on the screen, the doors are actually a little bit more slow slung, because in a Speedster, when you put your elbow out, you really don't. I think Porsche wanted you to have both hands on the steering wheel. So they force you to have your elbow
Somewhat
in.
makes sense.
Yeah, so it's helpful. Volker said that's how you do it in racing, 2 hands on the steering wheel. But that was, it turned out to be such an expensive car to produce. They only produced a handful and stopped. And then right after this comes a famous Speedster, which that was something they could produce and make money on. But anyways, this was the first Porsche to make the National Register, so that was pretty cool news.
Yeah, and it's going to be following another very important car, a 1937 Amelia Earhart's Cord.
Wow,
How cool is that?
that's very cool.
So they're going to do an unveil at the Capitol, and it stays in this beautiful glass box, almost like your 1/18 scale display box. And hopefully when they do that, maybe we can get together some PCA members and show our support of this 34th vehicle to the register. All right, what else did you send me? The next
Oh,
one?
this is my favorite. So
Oh, yeah.
you could look at the look of her face. She was shocked that the key was on the left of the 911. She actually knew the key was on the left because she stole the car as they were unloading this 1988 911. And the guy's having this. He just bought this car, is having it delivered, and this young lady got in it and stole it.
Did they say why? Was she looking for an 88 911 or?
I'm number one amazed because nowadays they say no one can drive stick, and that evidently she knew where the key was, being on the left-hand side, and that she knew how to drive stick.
The news is just great at making you shake your head of things that are going on in the world.
So the key there is don't leave your car running and walk away from it.
We talked a little bit about sim racing earlier. This next news item has to do with Xbox, and it's pretty cool.
Yes, we're hoping you guys have an inside connection.
Not for a ticket to drive, but maybe
I
you can just.
I can see Kathy Lee over there sitting there, and I'm hoping she has a connection. Because Porsche is actually giving some of these away. That's right, Kathy, isn't it? Yeah, she's nodding her head yes.
We don't need an allocation for that?
I don't think you do, but you need to be able to obviously win their raffle. But is that cool or what? All the different
Liveries.
graphics, and of course
Very
the
nice.
Le Mans livery with all the different colors that represent
And the
different,
iconic liveries
iconic,
from the past.
Exactly. Yeah, I would love to have an Xbox like that. I think a lot of PCA Porsche people would.
Now, would you play it or would you just have it on
Oh,
display?
see.
See, that's the dilemma. That's
Do
the
I-
dilemma.
Do I open
Do you
it up
open
or?
Be careful. Maybe you have to play to get one.
Oh, there you go.
He has the talent.
I'll send Volker my scores so he can consider me for the Carrera Cup series.
So what else do we have for our listeners? We talked about Treffen. Oh, Ren Sport again, volunteer registration.
Yep, we got 600 spots rather. And I think we're a little over 200 right now. So that's going to fill up actually pretty quick as we get closer to the event. Volunteers, of course, PCA is famous for volunteers. It's a great place to meet new people, to hang out. You get a event poster, any special T-shirt that's only available to volunteers. And normally the volunteers are always asked by the the public if they can buy that shirt that they're wearing, because they realize you can't buy these shirts. They're only for volunteers. So it's basically the volunteer work is either parking the cars, the Porsches. You don't get to drive the cars. You just have to direct them to the parking spots. I got to clarify that. Or working in the Porsche plots where the hospitality tent is. So yeah, it's a great way to make your experience at Ren Sport even more enjoyable.
I would love to give kudos to Damon Lowney. He's not here with us. He's probably out doing a 1 mile review on one of the cars here at Porsche Parade, but he was able to follow Manny and I around at the Concours field, and within 24 hours churned out a video to share with everyone that can't be here because it's spectacular and we always want to share it with the rest of the world. And he cranked out a video, craziest Porsches at the 2023 Porsche Parade Concours. So if you haven't checked that out, please do so. Man, you want to talk about the historic display that we walked through?
So Laura Schultz, who was in charge of the historic display, did a phenomenal job of curating some very special cars. And like Vu said in the video, we picked just a handful. I would have loved to have gone through every single one, but it would have probably been a 2-hour-long video. But they had a 914-6 GT. They had the Holy Trinity of supercars, the 959 Carrera GT, 918 Spider. They had this great Rob Abbott's, just got done from TRE Motorsports, the IROC.
The tribute
car from the IROC series.
Which he took a genuine M491
I know, gotta love
car.
somebody who takes a rare turbo look and turns it into an RSR. So, hey, if you got the money and you got the car, more power to
and
you.
it turned out fantastic.
A real 924 Carrera GT. It was a and the 65 356 SC original owners, original paint. That was something
One
that
family
I would
owned.
love to find. It was and they had the 356 Carrera. It was, like I said, it went on and on. How the we had the lightweight RS Carrera RS and the touring Carrera RS. It was a great spot, and luckily it was fairly close together, so we didn't have to walk very far.
And the Concours was open to anyone that was willing to make the trek. And one of the comments on YouTube where someone said the 4-hour, up and back from, I guess they were in Southern California somewhere. They said it was completely worth it to see all of the amazing cars with that backdrop. And as you said, Volker, earlier, the range of cars that was out there, I would agree with them. It was definitely worth their while. We also dropped a video, a new player. I haven't met him, but he talked about the 2023 911 GTS with a lightweight package.
Yep, that's another 1 mile review. Steven did that, and it's been out now for a few days, so check it out. Gives good impressions of what happens when you buy the lightweight package.
And just like that, we are at the top of the hour. Anything else, gentlemen, before we sign off?
I will say for listeners, we're recording a second podcast, so we'll because we have to ship all our equipment back, and it takes about a week to 9 days to get it back. So we're doing 2 podcasts here, and then we go back to the regular schedule at recording from our studios.
So with that, thank you for listening. If you aren't currently a PCA member and you own a Porsche, grab that VIN, head over to PCA.org, and we'll get you set up with membership. If you're looking for a Porsche, join the test drive program. We'll find your dream car. Remember to follow us on our podcast Instagram page, behind the scenes photos, videos, Porsche Club Insider, all one word. You can send us a message. Make sure you click the like button. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and get us closer to 100,000 subscribers. Anything and everything that you can do. We certainly appreciate your support. Remember, until next time, stay safe and we'll catch you down the road.